We are recording and we will be posting this to our YouTube page as well. So I welcome you all to our 5th or 6th roundtable of the year. It's a session that we only have these sessions because Toastmasters International said in order for members and officers to get credit for club officer training, there's got to be a live component. And they know that we're not going to actually meet in person. We tried to do that in Edinburgh and that did not work out well at all. So our live component is via Zoom, via our living rooms, pants optional, and works out exceptionally well for everybody. So this is the live component, so you can all get credit for your clubs for club officer training. I don't want this to be just one of those other, just like any other educational segment where one person talks and everyone else listens. This is going to be a conversation. It's not going to be just a one person talking. So we're going to be calling on a number of folks who are on this call to share their experiences as club officers. And if you're a repeating club officer, I encourage you to please share your experiences during your time that you've been a club officer as well. The goal for this, because most everybody here should have already gone on to either the YouTube page or watch the module of their club office, because most people have already done that. This is really about what's it going to be like to be a club officer. Because I don't know about the rest of you, but for when I first became a club officer 8 years ago, and I went to TLI in Orlando, Florida, where I lived, I left that day, and my first thought is, great, now what? I had no idea what was going to actually happen. And the things that happen throughout the course of a year are usually not the things we talk about in actual TLIs. Like, I don't know, a global pandemic that makes us all go to YouTube. There are things you just can't plan for, but conversations that we can have to help all of you flatten your learning curve, not just flatten the curve, but flatten another curve, to help you get ready for your year as a club officer. So that's kind of the idea behind this thing tonight. Does that all sound good? Sound like a plan there?
Yes.
Thumbs up if you're on board. Fantastic. All right. I am going to also hit mute all, and when I call on you, if you have any questions, I want you to please just unmute yourself and ask away. So I'm going to start with a question. How many of you, or who of you, has that burning question that you've been waiting to ask someone, but had no idea who to ask, and felt like it was silly to ask that question, but you are dying to find out something about being a club officer? Who came here with the question that you really want to ask? There's always at least a couple in every single session. Anybody with a question? Yes, Lori.
Mine would be specifically in closed club for VP of membership. And what are some creative methods that have been used to gain interest so that those individuals aren't passing you in the hall and don't make eye contact because you feel like you're a marketer. So are there any is there any advice or some things that you guys have done?
There actually is. That's one of the questions that I will specifically ask to someone down the road here, who is in a very good and an excellent corporate club here in Fort Wayne, where my wife works for that company, and he has been instrumental. He transferred from another club. Hopefully Matthew at some point is going to realize I'm talking about him, but he has had some fantastic ideas about how to actually market corporate clubs, and we'll get into that a little bit later. That's one of the talking points we will absolutely cover, so yes. What else? Yeah, Donna.
Just to answer Lori's question, a couple of things is you just have to have your eyes open wherever you're at and be able to talk Toastmasters to anybody. One day when I had my car in a repair shop, I saw a gentleman reading a communications book, and I overheard him talking about, how he hated communications. He just didn't get it, didn't understand it, wanted help. So I went over and I talked with him, and I gave him a list of clubs to visit, and he thanked me for that. So it's just talking about Toastmasters is a good way.
All right, so since we started down this path, why don't we take this as the first question? Matthew, you do a fantastic job at Vera being able to get the word out through the thread and the buzz and all these other acronyms that are out there that are corporate specific. And you guys have done a great job of being able to transition Toastmasters to fit the culture of the company. Why don't you try to answer Laura's question a little bit about some of the specific things that you all do to be able to reach the population of your organization in a way that makes sense to your company and to your employees?
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, it's a great question. I was glad that was asked because I thought, well, I'm curious to know what the answer to that is. Some things we've done. So my mind went to some of the things we've done and some of the things that we would like to do. Some of the things that we've done have tried to utilize the corporate communications. So there's intranet, there's websites, there's events, announcements, chain emails that go out. We've tried to increase the visibility that we have there to give events to say, this is happening, or come visit us, or sign in to see this thing, just to try to keep it visible and in front of people. Don't want to spam them, don't want to become annoying, but just enough to once in a while, like perhaps every month or so, try to put something out there. I met with the VP of PR, and actually that person, and then it changed out who it was. It started out, it was Megan. What's her last name? Anyway, some of you would know. Say it again.
Masterson.
Yeah, and some of you guys would know her. She's been at the Storyteller. She's great. She's a fantastic storyteller. Started out her, and then she shifted away to do her business, and then it was somebody else. But we coordinated together a little bit to increase some of those communications. Some of the things we tried to do was reach out to other departments. One of the things that our president of the club did was started inviting different managers or important people in the company to come by and be a guest at a specific meeting. And so then we would give them a warm welcome and just kind of communicate what we do so that they would go back to their department and have this in their back pocket. Some of the things that we wanted to do was get this a little bit more in the corporate onboard process, so that when we bring somebody in through the initiation to the company to say, this is one of the resources that is here, and just put it out there as something they could take advantage of. And then also we wanted, and we're kind of searching for ways to make this happen more, but also have it so that when managers, we have at Vera Bradley, they have a really good schedule and a routine of having managers do one-on-ones, and especially annually with the people on their team to discuss professional development and try to give constructive feedback and suggestions and ways to help them grow professionally. And we've really wanted to have this as another one of the tools that they would offer as something that they could do. One of the things that we are trying to do is emphasize being welcome and helpful to those that English is a second language. We have a number of people at the company that English is a second language. And I feel like that's a fantastic opportunity for those of us that English is our only language to learn from those people and broaden our perspective and learn more. And then also for them to practice speaking and be able to speak to the group. And because it's intimidating for anyone, but when it's not your first language, that can be especially intimidating. But for some of them, it's a critical part of their job. So having that chance to practice and even practice web conferences is even helpful. So those are some of the things that are on the top of my mind, Scott. I could throw those out there and see if there's any thoughts or discussion on that.
Thank you, Matthew. So very good job. Appreciate that. Very nice job. So there's a couple things that you guys have done that you didn't mention though. One of the things that Vera Bradley does is they have some special committees that help engage employees. So they have a committee that goes out and it's a fun committee, and they go out and provide learning opportunities, self-development opportunities for employees in different ways. We did an event with them at a bar in the evening that was like speed dating. Matthew's like, oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
We did like a speed dating event basically, but it was how to do an elevator pitch. So if you went out to explain what your job was or what the company did to somebody else outside of Vera, you'd have a better way to explain that. And it was incredibly well attended, and a lot of feedback over the course of time, and more members and more visitors from that as well. So there's definitely ways to get involved. For the others of you who have corporate clubs, what else do you all do? Anybody else out there with a corporate club that you have other suggestions? Or do we cover them all?
We have, the Speaking of Health Toastmasters Club is held at the Marion County Public Health Department. We have been around for 7 years now. It's been successful. However, this year with the pandemic, it went down completely because every employee has been assigned to
All right, so that is one of the fun parts about Zoom is every once in a while you get a frozen screen and then you get a frozen speaker. So we will come back to Marjorie down the road here when her connection comes back to us. But Laura, does that help you a little bit with some ideas for how to market a corporate club?
It does, and I appreciate that. A lot of these are things that we've incorporated, so I'm glad to hear that we're stepping in tune with you guys. So
very cool.
Thank
Your HR department can be a huge asset to you.
right.
If you can get part of the onboarding process, absolutely. Raphael, question or comment?
It's a comment and kind of question as well. So I kind of wanted to get everyone's feedback as far as videoing these meetings. I have like a YouTube channel. It's my personal YouTube channel. And I mean, getting engagement is crucial. And a lot of times what happens is, at least I feel like whenever I tell people at Toastmasters, they have no idea what it's like. So maybe, I don't know if anyone's done that, where they maybe record a short snippet of people doing table topics or maybe a speech so that people get an idea of what it is so they can see whether or not that's something they're interested in. I mean, you've even said you've gotten a ton of engagement just by videoing these meetings too. So
there are some clubs out there that have recorded speeches for years. One of my clubs in Florida has about 10 years worth of speeches saved to their YouTube channel, and they have a pretty good following of non-Toastmasters that just go on to watch videos. And a lot of it is just that the same way you would market any other online offering, you have to find the content and produce the content that people want to watch. Quality content draws people in without a doubt. Very good. All right. Yes.
Just to offer something else on this.
Sure.
If you think about social media, that we're in a social media society, and I was always taught use all three of the main sites. So with LinkedIn, you can put a long speech on there and get discussion going that way. And then that way you get to turn around and invite whoever is in that discussion, invite them to your club meeting.
Yep.
And Facebook should be all about pictures with some names of who's in the pictures. But remember, you have to get authorization from everybody in the picture to post it.
Very good. Thank you, Donna.
Yeah, Scott,
Matt.
to piggyback on that real quick too. I encourage our officers and our people that have anything significant that happens in the club to go ahead and put that on LinkedIn. Like if you're an officer, put that on your LinkedIn that you've served as an officer. It's kudos to you, and it advertises for the club. So I really like the social media idea. And Scott, one thing that was on my mind too was welcoming people, guests that have visited. One thing that we did was we got welcome packets, the actual physical paper packets from Toastmasters International, and got the brochures and all of that right in time for quarantine to hit and for anything paper that you would hand to somebody to be completely worthless. But we do have a nice box of those that we can use whenever we can start meeting again. And also they have the PDFs online that you can download of the different brochures. So when we have someone visit, I really try to follow up with them. Thank you for coming. We would love to support your goals in any way personal. Just really communicate to them that this is about the individual. We support you. And so here's a brochure to tell you a little bit more about Toastmasters. Just kind of reach out, give them something to read, and kind of pull them in and help them think about what actually happens, and demystify that a little bit.
So how many of you know that there is a brand new, it came out during the officer trainings, there's a brand new link for all, it's a virtual welcome packet that Toastmasters International put together. Have any of you seen that that's out there? I have half the people going no and half the people going yes. All right. Well, I know it's posted on the District 11 website. We will send it out to all of our club officers so everybody knows that it's there, so you'll have easy access to it. Link came out maybe a week ago, and then life just very much happened. We'll make sure that y'all get that here very, very quickly. There's more to being an officer than just kind of your role. There's a lot that goes into being a club officer that you never really expect to have happen. And for a lot of us, like I've been a president 9 times, I've been a VPE 8 times in 8 years. You see a lot of stuff and a lot of things happen that as you look back on it, you think, man, I really wish I knew then what I knew now. At the end of every single term, kind of have that statement. And Rick, I know you and I have had conversations about some of the stuff that we've both come from different districts and some things that we've learned over time that we bring here. I would love to hear your thoughts a little bit on, as club officers get ready to move into terms, especially if it's a new office or if it is a brand new club. What are some of the things that you know now that you wish you knew when you first started out this crazy Toastmasters journey?
Wow, it's so different with different clubs and different districts. But the important thing is that the officers are committed to doing their job. And in a lot of situations, if you don't have full commitment from the officer, what happens is you burn yourself out real easily if you're the one that's trying to pick up for everybody else. And so what I urge you to do is make sure that you learn enough to know what your job is so you can do it and be committed to it. The other part that I didn't get in my first, I guess I was first a VPE and probably before many of you were born. And I want to say 1989, the first time I was there, the club we were in never had an executive committee meeting. And so all the officers were working into their own little shells. And especially when it comes to the contact between VPPR, VPM, and VPE, if you're not talking to each other and working as a team, you'll fail. It's that simple. So I urge, especially you that are VPPRs, VPMs, and VPEs, make sure you know your counterparts. And when you put a plan together for your club, make sure you consider how the 3 of those officers work together. If I had known that from the beginning, it would have made me a lot better officer in those early days.
Absolutely. Relationships really are, even if we're on Zoom, relationships are absolutely the cornerstone of leadership. And with there's no way that clubs can exist without having solid relationships between members and between officers and members. Relationships matter so much. Tyson, I know you and I have talked over the years about relationships and how to build some of those relationships and effective relationships between club officers and district officers and club members and between club members, and that whole dynamic of how to build better relationships. What do you know now about building relationships that you would love to share with brand new officers coming in?
Get out and meet new people. Build your network. Most of us, when we get involved in Toastmasters, we are familiar with our club. We know our fellow members in our club, especially when you step into the position of an officer role and you start getting involved in things beyond your club, in the division, in the district. You go out to officer training meetings. You can meet new people. It's nice when I do like meeting in person. You get to have conversations with people, get to meet new people, make connections, get their contact information, people who are more experienced in Toastmasters, perhaps, other people who might be in the same boat as you, stepping in as an officer role for the first time, stay in communication with each other, and help encourage each other as you go. So that's really important. Get involved in other events. I'm serving as division director now. One of my area directors actually she put together this idea where she's doing quarterly events for her area, for anyone from any of the clubs in her area are welcome to attend these meetings. She had the first one Friday. It's going to be, last Saturday is the quarterly thing she's going to do. So that's a good way to build connections, relationships from all of the officers, all of the clubs together. And it helps people to see that there's a bigger picture to Toastmasters, area, division leadership, district leadership. And then of course, that lets people know there are opportunities to step up in leadership and grow beyond just your club too, for those who are wanting to take the leadership path. So I think it's really important for people to have that awareness, to get out, build those connections, participate in events and things, opportunities outside of the club.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Tyson. That is very well said. I think one of the things that Tyson was alluding to, but didn't necessarily call out exactly, we have a new club ambassador program that's about to be launched. So we rolled it out to all of our district leaders to a rousing applause, which I was very excited about. And it is a way to incentivize members and officers to go visit other clubs. So I'm wondering, just by kind of thumbs up, by raising your hand, any kind of visual thing you can do, how many of you have gone to visit other clubs you have never visited before during this whole quarantine period? How many of you are thinking, I never even thought of that. I could probably do that without too much effort. Well, there is a way to be able to go visit other clubs and get incentivized for it. And the reason we're doing that is because we have a lot, like Tyson said, we have a lot of people that are working hard, but working in silos. And Rick mentioned this as well, that we have folks that have been to their club and only their club and not to another club. There are so many great practices out there, so many different ways of delivering Toastmasters. We want everyone to be able to learn from other people. So we are strongly encouraging everyone to go visit other clubs and to just learn from the other experiences that are out there. So from those who have gone out and experienced other clubs, is there anything that you have found in those other clubs that you wanted to bring back to your club because you thought, wow, that was a really good idea? That's something I never thought of before. Anybody have one of those experiences? Tyson, what did you have?
Yeah, various things. It's, first of all, when you visit other clubs, you learn that each club has its own unique culture, its own flavor, and things are slightly different. Maybe the way that they create the agenda might be a little bit different. The way that they do certain things are a little different. But yeah, I picked up some good ideas. Serving as an area director and division director too, you can share these ideas with other clubs. When you pick up something from one club and you visit another club that might benefit, share the information with them, share the wealth. Certain things that I picked up are, my club has never really done a theme for the meeting, but I've seen other clubs, the Toastmaster will always choose a theme for the meeting. They'll announce it ahead of time. It'll go out in the agenda. So then whoever is the grammarian, the table topics master, they can choose subjects that go right along with that theme. That adds a lot of fun and creativity to the meeting. So that's one thing. And creating more engagement, like some clubs, when someone says the word of the day, the grammarian gives the word of the day, and then every time someone says that word of the day, they might do something like knock, or yeah, do something like like my club started doing this recently. We're using the reactions on Zoom now. So it's something that it gets people's attention and gets everyone thinking, oh yeah, they said the word of the day, and it keeps people more engaged and more focused on the meeting too, so they're less likely to just drift off. That's one benefit of doing it with the Zoom meetings. Keeps everyone focused and engaged, because if they hear something going on or they see all these things pop up on the screen, they think, oh yeah, the word of the day, it kind of brings them back to it. Those are just a couple of things. But of course, I've seen other things that I enjoy, but those are just a few of the benefits of getting to know other clubs, learning the way they do things. And as you recognize more that each club has its own unique culture, that helps you to identify the culture of your club and how you can strengthen that to build your club and make your club stronger. Because the vibe of your club, the culture of your club, that is a big thing that might appeal to visitors when they come in. That's why then sometimes someone might visit a couple different clubs before they decide which one to join. They want the club that they resonate with. And when you identify the culture and the vibe of your club and help to purify and strengthen that, then that makes your club stronger as well.
Very nice. Thank you, Tyson. And Donna, I know you've been to a bunch of different clubs here over the past few months from the comfort of your own home. What have you brought back to your clubs based upon what you've learned?
Well, I'm going to take it the international direction that Holly Eustace had got me started on this. I go out there and visit clubs in other countries, and my most recent one was in England. They take a break halfway through their meeting. The international clubs, they seem to want to have long meetings. And so they may have 2 speakers, and then they take a break, and then they do table topics. That. But a couple of the things that have come out of that is listening for the word of the day is one, and then also listening if you can remember who said this. And one person is assigned to pay attention to what others are saying. And then at the very end of the meeting is the quiz time. And you can earn points by showing, oh, you were listening. And I found that impressive because we are about developing our listening skills also. And there's also you just get on the official Toastmaster Facebook page and just start streaming through that.
Yep.
I'm going to be helping a club in North Carolina out in September. They had put a plea out there for members in other states that would be willing to be Toastmaster for 4 meetings in September, because they are trying to get their members motivated again. And it's nice to see that we are trying to help each other and not just making it about our club, our district, and nobody else out there.
That is awesome. Thank you, Donna. Thank you. So I wonder, how many of you have somebody that evaluates table topics? How many of you have a table topic evaluator in your club? Some? Yeah? So I never even heard of that until I moved to Indiana. When I was in Florida, that was not a thing. We had never even heard of that. But because I'm still a member of a couple of clubs in Florida, I've taken that to Florida virtually. And there are clubs now that have adopted table topics evaluations. Now you get to learn all kinds of new things like Quizmasters. It's all over South Florida. Table topics evaluations all through the Midwest. Breaks for coffee in restrooms all through Central Florida, especially from all the retirement communities. They all need to go to the bathroom halfway through the club. You can do the math. It's an age thing. I get it. But there's all kinds of different ways to do it. And it can be a lot of fun to be able to do those things. So from a mentorship standpoint, how many of you had mentors as you started? Many of us had mentors when we first started Toastmasters. Yeah? How many of you have picked up a mentor as a club officer? Someone to mentor you through the club officer program? Bunch are like, that's an idea I never even thought of, huh? Your mentors that you had when you first started were probably fantastic to help you get through your first 3 speeches. They helped you figure out CC manuals and CL manuals and pathways and why we ding bells and stand up and sit down and applaud for everything under the sun. Why are we shaking hands and who has the hammer up front and what's that for? There's a sergeant at arms expecting trouble. Like all those things, we have all those types of things that our mentors help us figure it out. But then we move into club officer roles. And the mentors we had originally may or may not be the right mentors for us as club officer roles. I highly encourage you, if you don't already have a mentor as a club officer, reach out and find one. And there are some definite people out there that will be more than happy to help put you in touch with members that can help you through that process. Who do you think would be good people to reach out to help find those other club officers that may be able to mentor you as a club officer? Who would you call for that?
Well, the previous officer.
Previous officer, definitely one. Who else?
Area manager.
Area directors, absolutely, 100% area directors. Who else besides area directors?
Division directors.
Yes, division directors. If you contact your area directors, your division directors, and your outgoing officers, they will all be more than happy to help find you with somebody who can walk you through the process and make your learning curve much less steep and help you understand all the things that are happening and the histories of your club. Because let's face it, not all of us have been in our club since day one, and we don't all know the histories of what's happened since the beginning and how we got to where we are. So I highly encourage you to do that.
And
Yes, Donna.
if I can add one thing, also, if you want to be a mentor, that check with some of the clubs that have just recently chartered, because that can be overwhelming for the president or the two people that sponsored and mentored the club to get them up to par. And that's what Boiler Talks in my Division 8 has done. The president realized, hey, we have a turnover because they are part of Purdue University. And so they are having a lot of new people come on. She reached out to Lot Club. And then when I got the email, I reached out to her and I said, let's work together on this. And we're going to find people within the Lafayette area and Lot. So if you want to mentor, help your club growth director by mentoring the new people.
Yeah, and help the new clubs, not just a club growth director, but help those new officers they're struggling right now. They don't have the ability to be in a meeting with someone. They're all online with someone. They can absolutely use the help. So one other kind of set question here before we open it up for comments and such. Most of us joined a club, not just because it was convenient, but because we liked the people that were in there. And we probably go back because we get something out of that club in particular. As we move on throughout our journey, we want different things from our Toastmasters experience. And sometimes we kind of forget about what it was like when we first started. And we forget about the things that other members may need. How do you, I'm going to open this up to everybody. How do you go about finding out what your members need from your clubs so that they are more engaged and willing to come back and be more involved in the club? How do you find out what your members actually need? Who has a good process for doing that, or a good system, or something that you want to share about that?
May I, Scott?
All right, sure, Rick.
Well, we have really integrated that into the VPE role, of course. How many of you have ever seen the member survey that's supposed to go out once a year to your members? No? Look it up at the search for it on the TI site. That should go at least once a year to every member so that the VPE can get the information back, or maybe the VPM get the information back so you can find out what individuals want to achieve. That also helps our VPE schedule meetings in advance, because if someone wants to achieve 5 levels in a year, they're going to move it along a lot faster than someone who only wants to achieve perhaps 1 level in a year. That is one piece. And then you can see, you can integrate, once you have that information, then you can integrate the mentorship right to it, because you will then know they want to go along a certain pathway, and you can find someone else experiencing that pathway and set them up as VP with that particular mentor. And so those things all knit together, but it all starts with having a formulaic way to go out and find out what each member wants to be able to do at the next year.
Very nice, Rick. Thank you very much. That is very good. Donna.
One thing that made a difference for me when I joined in 2007 is the president at that time invited 3 of us that happened to show up as a guest on the same night, and we all joined that night. She invited us over to her home for a simple luncheon, but she wanted to get to know us and our goals and reasons for joining Toastmasters. That way, she made a success plan for each one of us as far as, okay, this is a leader, they can take on this job right away, or this person would be good for mentoring them. So just sit down and find out what their goals are.
So asking is pretty important, wouldn't you say? Asking is very important. How many of you have ever had fireside chats? Something that we used to do in Florida all the time. Anybody ever have fireside chats with new members and with your clubs? Anybody know what a fireside chat is? Hector's like, I'm going to shake my head back and forth as violently as possible to express that I have no idea what that is. Fireside chats back in the day when we were still allowed to be in the same room with each other without having to be quarantined for 14 days for having the audacity to actually sit on a couch with somebody. Back in the day, we used to get together and it was either around a bonfire or at a restaurant or again at someone's home or somewhere in public. And we'd sit there and we would just talk about Toastmasters. We talk about kind of all these things we're talking about tonight, but from a member standpoint. And what can you expect from a member? Help them understand the process, help them understand the pathways, and help build relationships back in the day. And we did these unique things, and some clubs still do it. It was a social aspect to it. I think that's kind of gone away a little bit after we've gone on Zoom. How many of you have clubs that actually have like a social hour where you get together outside of your meetings and just hang out and talk about non-Toastmastery things to build relationships with the members that are in your club, to help build friends? Anybody have that going on right now? Fantastic. John, tell me about yours.
Hi, good evening. Oops.
We got you.
I'll jump in here. I know there might be more than one John on the call. But yeah, Northeast 2000. So we meet up typically at the Jordan Y, but not so much for the last 5.5 months. But we do at least once a year. We'll have a get together at either like Jim Weaver's house and he'll have everybody over around the holidays for dinner, or and then oftentimes another time throughout the year. So we do some things to kind of get everybody together in a non-meeting environment, and I think it helps provide a little bit of richness around the club.
Very nice. Thank you, John. Relationships matter. Everything we do in Toastmasters is built around relationships. There's no reason for us to do this if there's not relationships. Toastmasters is not the ideal situation if we are going to experience it in isolation. It's meant to be experienced together, not alone. So the more that you can bring people together, the better off you're going to be. So I want to open this up to anybody else who is a club officer out there that is something they want to share, and more importantly, to all the club officers that have questions that they want to ask. Probably throughout the course of the evening, you heard something that you said, oh, I kind of wish I could know more about that, or it jogged an idea, or it jogged a thought. What other questions do you have that you want to know before we walk away tonight, so that you understand what your role is and that you have a better idea of how to perform your role as a club officer in whatever office you're holding? Genoa, you were an officer before in Purdue, correct?
Yes, you asked me, right?
Yes. Anything that you want to share with the incoming club officers about things you learned in the past that are helpful?
Yeah. I was VP like 3 or 4 years ago. Like I will be called on for the VP again this year, because we like when our VP actually the second years of the Toastmaster at Purdue, at that time we are on the difficult situations. That's no speech, no prepared speeches. So my first half year, I tried to now I know the strategies. The group email doesn't work. You must reach out individual, right? Ask them, do you want to give speeches? We need a speech this week. Yeah, and managed to get that. Yeah, first half year we always have speeches, at least one. Second half year we boomed. We always three speeches. And actually we cannot accommodate more because we are 1 hour. We are only 1 hour, and things happen again. This last couple months, and our club after 3 years we don't have speeches again. So I will call down for help. I'm pretty busy. I'm a scientist at Purdue. That's very busy. So because we are leaders. When we club leaders, I need to step up. So now we have 3 speeches again. After I'm always less than 1 month, VP again less than 1 month. I try to bring contact each individuals. And one strategy I found works better is you ask one question, not a lot of questions. Do you want to fill a role or not? And they fill the role, then follow-up email. Do you want to give a speech next week or the week after? Give 2 options, not a lot, not a yes or no options. 2 options, this week or next week. They usually select next week. And after that, follow-up question. Follow-up question is, do you want to be Toastmaster or not? Week after that, or the week next week or week after that. Then they select the later one. Usually do that. Yeah, give them a choice, I guess. Then they choose one. Then the club, I think, this way to succeed. And there's one thing I want to share. Another one is, I guess I want to share is a mentoring program. And in last couple of years, we didn't do really, we still have mentoring program, but not that when I was first tenure of VP and work with the club to establish this mentoring program, the second year of our club. And slowly they forgot about that. Then until last year, we have a later mentoring program. And so the new officers don't know what they do. They need to do. And after they attend a club meeting, they don't give speeches, they drop out. They never appear again. Now we reinstall that part. We make the new members give their speeches within 1 month, sometimes within 2 weeks. And they make sure they give speeches every month. And after 3 speeches, the majority of them will stay. And before that, we drop up the rate. New members is 50 to 80%. So that with mentoring, this we can keep members. Yeah, this is what I also learned from the VP training. Like that Scott and you and another division director have training. He said the similar things. Yeah, yes. So that's a common
theme.
All of that. That's what I want to say.
That is awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Very nice. Very nice. Who else has questions, or who else has a couple comments you want to make before we start to wrap this up a little bit?
Thanks for hosting these. This is really helpful. So I appreciate the time you guys took to share this information.
Very cool. I'm glad you liked it. This will certainly be a thing that we will do in the spring again, and we'll definitely do this again next year as well.
Scott?
Yes.
Just to throw some tips out there, and I do apologize if Rick might have shared this one, is get to know which officers should back each other up, like president and vice president of education. They really need to help each other out. VP, PR, VPM, that. And that way you are not doing it all yourself. That it's very important. The second thing is having the club executive committee meetings will help you to be successful. Your club be successful. Yep. And the third thing is, if you find that you're getting down to the wire and you just need that extra push to get your education achievements and get the speeches done, I suggest thinking about doing a speech-a-thon. Have one night you drop table topics, just do a speech-a-thon. Yep. And I've been in a club, we did it twice a year. We always got presidents distinguished.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, if you can have assistants within your role, like especially a VPE, if a VPE can have an assistant and have somebody that's in charge of the mentoring program, it helps very much the following year to have somebody step into your role so that you're not always trying to find somebody at the last minute when you're going through club officer nominations to wonder who's going to take over for me. But if you have an assistant process, it makes it much easier to be able to find that next generation of leaders as well. Any other questions that are out there? I'm not seeing anybody raise any hands at all. All right, well, I'm going to leave you with one other major thought here. All of you have decided to dedicate a year of your life to your club in a club leadership position. Some of you, it's not the first year by any stretch that you're doing this. It's just something you do every year. But at the end of every year, I know I personally want to be better than I was at the beginning of the year. So while we go through and we learn all the technical aspects of how to be a club officer, I want you to pay close attention to why you're a club officer. What is it that you want to get out of this year? What is it that you want to learn this year that you can apply outside of Toastmasters that you can learn in Toastmasters? I have always said that Toastmasters is a wonderful laboratory for failure. It is the best place to go try something, fall flat on your face, make a fool out of yourself, but learn and take a step forward, to fail forward. If you can fail forward here in a place that doesn't affect your life and your career anywhere, then you can take what you learned here and apply it out in the real world, and all of a sudden take massive leaps forward in whatever career or job or life you have. But figure out what is it that you want to get out of this year as a club officer, so that a year from now, you look back on this year and it wasn't just time you put in, but it was an investment. How you got better matters. We do that through speeches all the time, but sometimes we forget when we're club officers, we have to also get something out of it. So figure out what is it that you want to get out of this year. Incredibly important to write that down, work towards those goals, and find something that you can fail at miserably in private so you can succeed magnificently in public. I've learned that over the course of my years, that the years that I haven't done that have not been anywhere near as fulfilling. So please, whatever you do, make sure that you get something out of this year. We want this to be a wonderful experience for all of you. If you get stuck, if you have questions, there's going to be stuff that comes up. Ask some questions. Ask your area directors, ask your division directors, reach out and ask the trio, ask me, ask Jean, ask Angela, ask somebody, ask your predecessor, whoever had the role before you. We don't want you to ever get stuck. Go out and visit other clubs. Make this a social thing as well as a Toastmasters thing, because we are always better together. This should never be something we do alone, but we should always do it as a team and as a group. I really enjoyed this evening. I hope all of you got something out of it tonight. I'm going to hit stop recording. But before you go, please enter your name, your club name, and the offices that you hold down in the chat feature, so we can make sure that we get you credit for being here tonight. So the last thing I'm going to do is we only have 1 week left before we can